Hello and good afternoon to everyone on this beautiful summer Thursday day. I'm Caroline Milton with Milton Coaching Collective, and you're tuning into this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy, where we dive into the topic of energy. What helps us work well? What helps us be our most productive? How can we avoid stress and burnout because those play such a big part in our energy levels? And we talk about this from an individual standpoint. We also talk about it as it relates to work, because of course, with the amount of time, energy, and focus we dedicate to our craft, we want to make sure that we're working as well as possible. So that's what we cover in each week's episode. If you're not already following, you should make sure that you catch each week at noon on Thursdays. So go ahead and click that like, subscribe, or you can follow the hashtag Transforming Tired to make sure that you're getting each notification of when we go live. This week, I am thrilled to be joined by a very special guest. Not only do we share a background of attending the same college and being athletes in college, but also we ended up going into work for the same company after school and doing very similar work at the beginning part of our career. So we can certainly empathize with one another. You'll see a lot of that in our conversation today. And then we also have both become entrepreneurs. So please welcome me in joining Austin Weatherford today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on today, and really excited for our conversation.
Yes, I am too. Again, we have a lot in common, and we share some common beliefs as well about ways of working, and some of that we're going to talk about today, and just talk about those shared experiences. So I want you to start by telling the audience about what your career has looked like from the time you left dear old Rose to today.
Yeah, so pretty, like you said, very similar backgrounds coming from Rose-Hulman and the engineering world, and then kind of transitioned our way into manufacturing leadership type positions. So I started my career off at PepsiCo, specifically Frito-Lay at the Frankfurt site, and really cut my teeth there with a few project engineering roles and then maintenance supervisor roles there. Different shifts, different teams, and different priorities throughout the time I was there, and then transitioned over to Nestle, and they're transferred into the Indianapolis or the Anderson plant. I had a great time there as well. It's a huge facility. And then my wife's company got bought out and moved to California. So we took the leap of faith and got married, sold our house, and moved to California all within 2 weeks. And I really took on that journey together. And when we moved out there, I was able to transfer to another Waters location or Nestle location, and really had a great experience out there as well. And transferred then back when we decided to have our first child and get back closer to family, with both of our families being from the Indianapolis area. So transferred back also with Nestle again, and held various roles throughout these different times. And then just recently, like you said, became an entrepreneur and started my own consulting company.
Awesome. Again, so many similarities. I also started with Frito-Lay, but I made the jump to California first, right? I went out to California to work for Frito-Lay and then came back to the Midwest as you did. But something I want to touch on first is that transition that you and your wife made out to California. And in particular, maybe some reflections that you have on it now, because I too went through a massive amount of change in a very short amount of time without really understanding the care and attention that needed for myself and for my relationships. So when you moved out to California, what are some of the things that happened as a result of that change in that little stage of your career and of your life?
Yeah, it really, in the moment, it feels like a whirlwind, right? So everything is changing around you. So a lot of excitement just being in a new place, having lived in Indiana my whole life, went to school in Indiana, and then first position out of college in Indiana as well. It offered a lot of newness, a lot of exploring, a lot of new opportunities as well from a work front. It's a whole new team, new cultures, new things that you're really exposed to that really give you a different perspective on both work and personal life. So I think from the biggest takeaway and a positive, I think that was the biggest piece was being able to experience those things, not only on a professional level, but also with my wife and kind of growing together with her as well.
As you reflect on that, what are the things that you feel like allowed you to successfully navigate that change?
I think being open to change. I mean, obviously, when you sign up to move across the country, you're accepting some level of risk of change, right? But being open to it, understanding that there are so many different perspectives, and being open minded to learn those different perspectives. Try new things. As simple as trying new food, new cultures and food, to obviously exploring new places, and then working with different people. Just really kind of meshing all that together, just having that open mind and kind of positive attitude that you can really overcome anything if you're open to working through it.
One of the things that I talk about pretty regularly is that when we go through change, obviously, even an exciting change that can be stimulation and can be into the realm of overstimulation for our nervous system. So, what were some of the ways that you're coming into a leadership role and you really have to show up at work and be your best? And as you're navigating this change, what are some of the ways that you took care of yourself in that stage?
Yeah, like you said, it's all new, right in front of you. You want to kind of go in and prove yourself. For me, it was a whole new process and factory and things products we were making. So from that aspect, I would say at first I didn't do a really good job of that. I was working lots of hours, going in on weekends, covering projects that could have easily been delegated to other people, or handed off in some sense. But as I started working through that and getting better, I think, I went back to kind of what I enjoy to do and what I know kind of helps me out, which there's a few things personally that help. So like working out, being active. We joined a beach volleyball league, things like it, just as simple as going on a bike ride. And then for my wife and I together, we love to travel. So we started traveling more and doing some weekend adventures, some different hikes that we hadn't done, and kind of reaching out to like a new area that we hadn't been to, and trying to pick new places to kind of keep that freshness as time went on. So those were some little things that we did along the way that really helped. But like I said, it's hard at first, right? Because you're really just trying to go in there, prove yourself. You have your own expectations for yourself if you're wanting to be a high performer. So you really want to make sure you know your stuff, and that was kind of always that still is my mentality, but I understand there's different ways to get there now.
Yeah. And I mean, being out in California, that opportunity to travel all the time exists, right? And that's true everywhere, but there's just something different about being able to go to the mountains one weekend and then the beach the next, and then the desert in between. There's a lot of excitement out there. You've shared with me that when you made that transition to California, that you were able to implement some changes in the culture of the waters plant that you were working for. Tell us a little bit more about that shift and that change and how you really drove that change.
Yeah, so just the plant that I was at, just to give a little background of the factory I was at, was a 100-plus-year-old factory. So there was a lot of embedded and ingrained culture that was going to be there pretty much no matter what, right? So a lot of pride around the brand, the location that we were at. It wasn't the best area of Los Angeles, but we were very proud of what we had there, as a team, and how we maintained it, and how we really took care of the place. So from that aspect, there's a lot of historical culture that's built into it that, in some cases are very hard to change, and in some positive cases you may not want to change.
Mhm.
On the flip side, you have a mesh of employees who are very seasoned versus new employees coming in. So it's always that fine balance of striking, what kind of the appreciation for the, call it, the more seasoned veterans that you have, and how that translates over to the newer crowd that's coming in, and how do you train them and really ingrain that into their views of the workplace.
Yeah.
So we did some simple things, just having a uplift or a facelift on the buildings, right? Maintenance and like facilities really related employee spaces. Redesign the front offices, got some new furniture, things like that aren't earth shattering, but they can make a big difference for the team that's coming in there, especially at a site that is that old, to start with. So that was one small thing we did. We got really creative, being in LA with the food truck scene. We would do recognition events with different food trucks, which was really cool because you can get an awesome experience, and really all kinds of different experiences from essentially a recognition meal. So, instead of just catering in pizza, maybe one weekend we would do, a snow cone truck that comes in and makes random snow cones, whatever, to order, or a taco truck, or, various different types of things there. And then, from a recognition standpoint, we implemented a recognition program that instead of, it was just kind of recognition points that were just handed out, and you have a pre-prescribed set of things that you can quote unquote buy with these points. We made it a little more flexible with getting employees maybe something more that they wanted. So we kind of did a poll and got some feedback from the teams of what they would be excited about actually redeeming these points or credits for, and kind of tied it back to that.
Yeah, one of the things that I really took for granted when I was at Frito, and perhaps you felt this way as well, is how fabulous that R&R program was that they had, and I'm sure it's even probably better now. But recognition is such an important component of employee experience, right? Of ensuring that that employees feel that the value they're adding to the work and the organization is important. And when you have such seasoned, tenured subject matter experts on your team, and then the fresh, new ideas that are coming in, whether that's with management or with other employees, that recognition is even more important, because we need to make sure that we're acknowledging growth, and that we're acknowledging consistency, and that we're acknowledging that subject matter expertise. So the ability to identify a need for an upgrade to that program and then implement that, I'm sure, really helped change things for the employee experience. What else did you do in your time there that you felt was really impactful in the culture?
Yeah, I mean, just continuing on that recognition piece, there's one side of it, which is a tangible recognition, right? Which has some sort of value or redeemable quality to it, but it's also the timely delivery of even the simple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at making sure from a leadership perspective, and our leadership team was really identifying those things that we wanted to reward. And that was another big shift too, right? We were on the mend of, we had been the best factory for 3-4 years in a row. And there's an easy sense of complacency that can kind of settle in when you're at the top already and you've been there for a while. So we wanted to reward people for failing, trying new things and failing. So that was a big one that we started to focus in on. And then, like you said, with recognizing employees who have been there for a while, that are willing to dedicate and put extra effort into really training up these new folks that are coming in, and making sure that they get that same experience of training and opportunity that some of the older folks or more seasoned folks could have had along their journey as well. So everything now is fast paced. You see a lot of onboarding programs get rushed. So we really want to focus in on rewarding the people who are willing to spend the time to sit and spend an extra 10 minutes to really explain something in depth. So even just shifting what we're recognizing, I think, was a big change for the factory.
You said two different things there that I want to comment on. The first being that reward of trying things and failing. That's what really helps build psychologically safe, high-performing teams, is recognizing that, hey, I can voice an opinion, I can make a recommendation, and it's okay if it doesn't end up being the final path that we take on as a team or as an organization, but that creativity and that innovation can really be built in to the culture and the importance of that. And so I commend you on implementing that type of R&R for your teams, because it can be such a difference maker in being in that complacent point, right? And feeling like, okay, well, we just have to optimize. But when we only focus on optimization, we can sometimes lose sight of truly delighting the customer, right? And what the customer supports our brand for. And when we're creative and innovative in such a way, then things can really grow from there. So big kudos to you on that. And then the second piece being development, right? And Sometimes in the manufacturing field, it can feel like you get hired into a role and you're never going to go anywhere when you're working frontline. And that's not very motivating, right? That doesn't build into those high performing teams, and offering those ways to continue to upskill, to be trained and developed, to take on more responsibility, to build an autonomy is another way that we can really implement that strong culture in any industry, but especially in manufacturing.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's talk about the next step, where you moved back to Indiana and you had just experienced all of this success with shifting culture, implementation of new programs, and then you had a little bit of a different experience with that next step of your career. So talk a little bit about what some of the things that you have witnessed, experienced, that enables cultural growth and things that are needed in order to enable that growth and development of teams.
Yeah, I think it's important, in anywhere you go, whether it's manufacturing or outside in tech, anywhere really, just to have some sort of alignment on the culture and what you're trying to build from a leadership perspective. Really, throughout the building, office, whatever you want to call it. And I think that is kind of a key enabler, because then if everybody's got some momentum and they're demonstrating the same cultural values that we're trying to get to, or at least in the similar direction, I think that can make a big difference to unlocking the culture.
Yeah. What are some of the roadblocks that you've experienced personally in trying to make changes to an organization, and the resistance you've been met with?
Yeah, I think there's some roadblocks that have to do with people's different perspectives, their different experiences. Even as much, I think for me in this last scenario, your stage of life that you're in as well.
Mhm.
So just thinking and knowing yourself and understanding where you're coming from, and what you see in the culture versus California's culture is much different than Indiana's culture, right? Or most of the Midwest. So from a weekend warrior perspective in California, you may have your team maybe wanting to get on the road Friday at 5 or 4 or noon every week to get out and do a new trip. In Indiana, your team may want to work till 6 p.m. every week, just based on the cultures. And it's not saying one is right or wrong or indifferent, but some of those roadblocks and hurdles could potentially come from having people siloed, or not having different experiences, and then not, like I mentioned at the beginning, not being open-minded to seeing those other points of view, to really unlock the culture, or shift it to different opportunities that different people might see fit.
Yeah. What are some of the things that, in retrospect, you've learned about the importance of an organization that truly embraces culture?
I think if in the organizational standpoint, it's really having people walk the talk, and that from a top down leadership perspective. When I go in and I hear a leader complaining about not taking vacation time, that's a red flag to me. Either A, personally, they should be really like take advantage of your vacation time. You have it, you deserve it, and you should really utilize it for that reset. And there's different levels of reset, whether it's full vacation and PTO, or what do you do to reset on a daily basis,
Mhm.
even down to breaks, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think that's really important from a leadership perspective to model what that looks like. It could be encouraging new parents to take time off, right?
Mhm.
You see this all the time. A lot of people just will be off, a couple days during their new child coming into the world, and then they're right back to work. And I've had the benefit and pleasure of taking more time off to really enjoy that, and understanding what that brought to me. I will always advocate for that time off to bond with the child. So I think
Yeah.
there's different ways to do it, but to me, it's that modeling of that behavior, and really advocating for it for your employees to use.
Yeah. Oftentimes we think that consultants are removed from culture, right? Because they come in, they lend their expertise, they do their projects, and then they leave. But we know that's not true. So now in your work as a consultant, owning your own business, how do you see yourself actively implementing what you've learned about the importance of culture in the way that you serve your clients?
Yeah, so as this whole journey has progressed, I've done a better and better job of knowing myself, understanding kind of what makes me tick, what gives me that energy level and confidence. And I just love to have fun. I love to have, walk into a room with a smile on my face and be positive and open-minded to challenges and, however hard they may be. And, that's something I try to take into every meeting with clients, whether they're a prospective client or somebody who I've been working with for a while. I like to bring that energy to the table and be positive, but then also, making sure that they understand that I'm here to help them as well. So, a certain scenario with one of my clients, they had a few positions turn over, and somebody who I was partnering with on this project actually got pulled away to go back to a former factory that they were at. So, from a consultant standpoint, yes, I can step in and help, but really from a personal standpoint and a culture standpoint, I want to be there to support them so they're not feeling like they're burning out, trying to juggle both things. So it's being there for your team, just like they are your team, because essentially they are as you're on a project.
So my last question to you is, what are you doing now to really take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, so that you can rock it in the business world and that not come as a toll to the rest of your life?
Yep. So, like I said, as over time, you learn more and more about yourself, about what things kind of reset you. For me, it's really being active in either sports or working out, even down to just taking a simple walk outside, right? When the weather's nice in Indiana, it's a beautiful place to be. And then, also on top of that, making sure that we have, some pre-planned travel, making sure that we have vacations that are giving us an actual reset between my family. And then down on a daily standpoint, something I like to do, and I've kind of just gotten into this groove that's kind of work, but in the morning, I'm able to get up, get my daughter ready for daycare with my wife. We enjoy the morning together, take her to daycare. I have a section of time which is fully dedicated to whatever project I'm working on. And then from the time that we pick her up from daycare until she goes to sleep, it's no work time. We don't do any work. It's really separated and dedicated to that family time. And if there's things I need to pick up on, that's something that I can either pick up on the next day or maybe later that evening. But kind of setting aside these sacred times to be with family and really reset and focus on that.
Yeah. I know for me personally, it's given me a better perspective of, just honoring other people's boundaries. Is that, we don't all hold the same things as highest value, right? And really respecting, honoring the things that each of us need in order to feel fulfilled so that we can work well is such an important aspect. Austin, I commend you for taking that step into entrepreneur and for all of the work that you've done to this point in your career. It's incredible, and I know how much of a sacrifice it is to start your own business. How rewarding it can be, but that it is a very big adventure. So congratulations to you on that. I'd love if you shared with our audience a little bit about what Atlas Ventures offers and how folks can get in touch with you if they're looking for a consultant just like you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that compliment. I really appreciate that. It's been a fun ride so far, and we're still early on, so I'm really excited to see where this could go. But as far as Atlas Ventures goes, we're a project management engineering consulting firm. A lot of our services center around project execution, but we also do things on the forefront. So anything from facility evaluations to new layouts of equipment lines, even new factories. So there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, working in several different types of manufacturing fields, there's a lot of background and kind of history to what what service we're trying to deliver now. So current projects have really been focused around the project management side of it and bringing in new equipment for a new factory, and then also dabbling into some water rights. So really exciting times.
Exciting. All right. I'm going to pop your email up on the screen. So folks, if you'd like to get in touch with Austin, you can do so using the email address austin@atlasventures.llc. And for those of you who have tuned in today, thanks so much for being here. I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you who watches, who likes, who supports, who shares. It really means a lot. And again, as small business owners, we really, really do value our audiences. So again, thank you. I'm Caroline Milton, owner of Milton Coaching Collective. Each Thursday, we chat about engineering your energy, the steps you can take to be your most productive, most fulfilled self, to keep burnout at bay. If you'd like to learn more about the stress management and burnout prevention services that we offer with Milton Coaching Collective, you can head to, there we go, the website shown on the screen there below, miltoncc.com. One of our new service offerings for corporate clients is building you a burnout prevention plan, where we help analyze the top drivers for burnout within your organization and then identify key resources you can implement to keep burnout at bay. So click on the website to learn more, and I look forward to chatting with you about how we can serve you or your organization in the coming year. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next Thursday.